Hi, and welcome to my monthly market insights video. My name is Dan Timitich. I'm a managing principal and a portfolio manager at T2 Asset Management. Before we get started, just a reminder, this video is for educational purposes only. The opinions expressed in this video are mine, do not reflect the opinions of others. You should always consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Okay, we've certainly been through a lot over the course of the last 4 to 5 weeks, and I certainly hope you and your family are staying healthy. Obviously, the panic over the coronavirus is front and center in everyone's mind. Nobody can say with certainty how long this will last, but we know from history that every pandemic does end. Before I get into some of the specifics on the market and the economy, I thought it'd be important to put some context around the current environment. By now, everyone has seen this graphic from Johns Hopkins University that tracks the number of cases of coronavirus. Clearly, the number of cases is increasing, as are the deaths, not only worldwide, but we're seeing areas like New York experience a significant increase in cases. But how do all these numbers compare to past pandemics? Here we have a list of the previous ones that are compiled by World Economic Forum. I realize that it may be hard to read here, but the point here to this list is that we've experienced a lot of pandemics over the last century, and we've always come out of them stronger and better prepared for the future ones. But why is this one so different? Previous pandemics, like the swine flu, for example, in 2009, 2010, didn't require shutting down the economy. I know in the coming months, there's going to be a lot of debate on whether or not the government went too far or was justified. At this point, our opinions are irrelevant. The economy is shut down. We are quarantined, and that's just the way it's going to have to be, at least for a little bit longer. So what does all this mean for the economy? There's no question that our economy is going to take a hit. Our economy as a whole is about $22 trillion. This is the total of all goods and services that we produce. If we break it down by month and simply divide 22 trillion by 12, we produce roughly about $1.8 trillion a month. I know this is simple math and not exact, but I wanted to give you a simple way to look at the potential impact to our economy. We will obviously see an impact to first quarter GDP numbers. How much it'll impact first quarter is still unknown, since we're waiting to see if March's drag is going to be offset by the gains of January and February. Right now, we're in April, and the shutdown continues. Clearly, April production is also going to be negatively affected. How much that impacts second quarter, again, depends on how long we keep the economy closed. If this lingers into May or June, we're going to have some real problems, and it could get us to the point where we may not be able to recover for quite some time. Before we go further, let me be clear. I don't expect us to be shut down that long, but in order to accurately model outcomes, you're going to need to look at all the scenarios, including the worst case. As we entered the year, economists were forecasting about 2% growth this year. This is clearly going to be affected by this recent pandemic. If the economy reopens relatively soon, we can expect third and fourth quarter output to rebound and hopefully offset the impacts of March and April. It's still too soon to tell, and if anybody claims to know, they're just guessing. So what would be our best guess given all these circumstances? Since 70% of our economy is consumer consumption, you could take away about 70% of the monthly consumption for the last 2 months. It's not perfect, since people are still grocery shopping and spending money on other services, but I think it's a pretty good start and a pretty good place to start. So if we were to remain closed through April, we should expect to lose about $2.5 trillion in economic output, and that represents about 10% of total output. Some of this may be made up in the third and fourth quarters, but certainly not all of it, and that's why the government pushed for this relief package of $2.3 trillion. These dollars are certainly going to be helpful, and it's certainly going to take away some of the pressure on the economy. So let's take a look at the stimulus package in general. Congress finally passed the CARES Act to help us get through this. It's $2.3 trillion. There's a lot to unpack, but we're just going to address some of the highlights. Here we have a really nice breakdown from Goldman Sachs. Obviously, the top 4 categories are not only the biggest in dollar amount, they're also allocated to the most effective areas. As with anything, the devil's in the details, and I encourage all of you to consult with your accountant on specifics. That said, here's some general thoughts. Small business loans and grants, they're designed to support small businesses with less than 500 employees. The details are still coming out as to how to access these loans and who's going to be eligible, but it will provide loans to cover basically payroll, rent, utilities, and the like, and it would be forgiven as long as you meet the terms of the agreement. There's also going to be direct payments to individuals. Individual taxpayers get $1,200, joint filers $2,400, plus an additional $500 per child. There's a gradual reduction of incomes greater than $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for joint filers. The good news is that the direct payments will be sent to you without you having to do anything. Keep in mind, if you haven't filed your 2019 tax returns, the government's just going to use your 2018 filing. There's some money in there for certain sectors like airlines. There's also money in there for increased unemployment insurance benefits. Obviously, whenever Congress passes a package of this size, you can certainly expect a lot of unnecessary funding to be included as well, and this has. But all in all, this is a good start to help offset some of the pain caused by this shutdown. And depending on how long this thing lasts, we can very easily see more stimulus coming down. There's already talk in Congress about a $2 billion infrastructure bill later on. So it's clear that Congress is ready to spend some money. Now, I know that right now things feel terrible, and you're probably worried about a lot of things, but I think there's also a lot to be positive about. Look, I don't know when this will finally end, but I believe over the next 3 to 6 months, things will get much better. Why, you may ask? Well, simply we're the United States of America, and it's kind of what we do. We have the best scientists, we have the best researchers, we have the best doctors, the best nurses in the world. Our medical system is unparalleled. Our private companies are working extremely hard to find a solution to this pandemic, and there's no doubt in my mind that we will find a solution. Here's just some of the samplings of what's happening as we speak. Last week, New York began treating 1,100 patients with a combination of hydrochloroquine and Z-Pak. We should be getting the results any day now, and if the results end up being positive, the light at the end of the tunnel is going to get very bright. In Washington State, doctors are collecting plasma from patients that had coronavirus and are getting ready to give it to the sickest patients. The idea here is that survivors' blood will contain antibodies that can be transfused into a patient fighting to survive, and they could get the same benefit. Dr. Jacob Glanville, CEO of Distributed Bio, announced that they may have discovered a potential cure for the coronavirus and have sent it to the U.S. military for testing. He believes that these antibodies surround and stick all over the virus and basically make it no longer infectious. There are many, many more stories that are coming out of our medical research industry that are showing promising results, and I'm confident that the cure is not too far away. If you want to bet against American ingenuity, go right ahead, but just know history shows that betting against America is not really a winning strategy. Now, looking past the current pandemic, I think stocks should do pretty well in the next 3 to 6 months. Currently, my stock allocation is fully invested with an overweight in technology generally, cloud computing and communications more specifically. Just as an example, I'll share with you 2 ETFs that I own for clients, Sky and XLC. Sky is an ETF tracking cloud computing. It includes companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, Oracle. XLC is a communications sector ETF. It includes companies like Facebook, Electronic Arts, Netflix, Activision. These are some of the best companies in the world with solid balance sheets and the ability to weather the storm. I'm not sure when or if we'll be able to buy these companies at these levels for quite some time, so I'm very comfortable holding them right now. In this environment, I want to own the large tech companies that have a business model that is essential for our economy, rather than trying to pick individual winners and losers in an industry that's just not doing well. Now, this past month, it's certainly felt like an eternity, and I know kids are at home, parents are home, we can't go to restaurants. The closest you're going to get to having a beer with the guys is through FaceTime. No sports to look forward to. It's a lot, I know, but it will end. And, look, we're going through a fundamental transformation of our economy as well as our government. The future of business will certainly be different. The size and scope of government will be different. Education will be different. A lot has changed in a very, very short period of time. Companies are now figuring out ways to keep their employees productive, and people are learning to work remotely. If you learned anything in the last few weeks, is that people don't necessarily need to go to an office. Clearly, there are going to be losers. Some companies will no longer exist. This pandemic has probably accelerated the extinction of many retailers, and there will be many oil companies that may not survive with $20 oil prices. But it's not just the private sector. It's going to be transformed. Government is now going to play a bigger role in our lives going forward. Government has set a new precedent that it can shut down the economy if it believes it's in the public's interest. This is a very low bar, and it's going to have profound implications in the future. The stimulus package, it was big, but it's no solution. It's a Band-Aid. The government forced the closure of an economy and needed to help business individuals get through it. Once we get back to normal, there will be certainly a price to be paid back. The money is going to be paid back one way or another. And finally, whenever the government takes drastic measures like it has in the middle of this mass panic, there are unintended consequences. While I appreciate the need for us to keep this virus from spreading, there will certainly be an increase in suicides, drug overdoses, domestic violence, child abuse, etc. The pressures of not knowing if you're going to have a job, watching your financial situation deteriorate, the stress of not providing for your family, these are real problems that people are dealing with, and I just hope we can get back to normal sooner rather than later, so that we don't end up doing more damage to all the families in this country. You certainly don't want the cure to be worse than the disease. Thanks all for watching. If you do have any questions or you just want some more information, please feel free to call me or email me. Be safe, be healthy, and I hope to see you next month.